Welcome back for another deep dive with us. This time we're heading to Ronda, Spain, but we're not just gonna, give you the typical travel highlights.
No, no, no. Ronda's beautiful, of course, but today we're going to dig a little deeper, explore how this tourist destination is dealing with, well, a pretty universal issue.
Waste management, the not so glamorous side of things.
Exactly.
So we have two great sources for this deep dive, both from Clive Muir. There's his travel podcast episode where he just raves about Ronda, and then a recent article he wrote that goes into this really interesting project that's happening there.
Yeah, and I think what struck me is that Ronda, with its beautiful scenery and historical charm, really it's facing those same challenges that we see in, well, communities everywhere.
Right, like you picture Ronda, you think of those dramatic cliffs, the Puente Nuevo Bridge, the bullfighting history.
Hmm.
It all sounds, well, idyllic.
It is. But idyllic doesn't mean, free from modern problems.
So I'm guessing that charm comes with, its share of trash.
Absolutely. We're talking about a region, Ronda and the surrounding Serranía de Ronda, with over 50,000 people.
Yeah.
And up until recently, there was no real facility to handle all the waste they generate.
Wow. No local solution at all. That had to be a nightmare for businesses, residents, everyone, just logistically.
Oh, absolutely. Think
Yeah.
about it. You have to transport all your waste, sometimes, for quite a distance, just to make sure it's disposed of properly. And that has a cost, not just in, dollars and cents, but for the environment as well.
Right, and I bet it doesn't exactly help Ronda's image, especially for a place that depends so much on, its natural beauty.
You hit the nail on the head. Clive even mentions in his article that this lack of a proper waste management system led to illegal dumping, which of course, threatens the very landscape that makes Ronda so attractive. And this is where the news about Arunda Recicla comes in.
Arunda Recicla. I love how the name just instantly ties into Ronda's past.
Yeah, it's really clever how they connected this modern project with Ronda's history. You see, Arunda is believed to be the ancient Iberian and Roman name for the city. So it's not just a waste facility, it's a statement about Ronda's future, but one that's grounded in its past.
So let's get down to it. What exactly will Arunda Recicla do? I mean, the article calls it a comprehensive recycling center. It sounds like they're going all in.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be handling a huge variety of waste. We're talking construction and demolition debris, wood, metal, bulky items, you name it, even electronics and hazardous household waste.
Wow, that's ambitious. Makes you wonder how they're going to manage all that.
Well, the interesting thing is they're not just collecting and disposing of waste. They're fully embracing this idea of a circular economy.
Right, right. The circular economy. I've heard that term, but it can be kind of hard to grasp. What does it actually look like in Rhonda's case?
It's about moving away from that traditional linear model,
Mm.
take, make, dispose. Instead, they're looking at waste as a valuable resource. It's about creating a closed loop where materials are reused and repurposed.
Now, instead of just sending everything to a landfill, they're figuring out ways to give it a second life.
Exactly. And the article gives some cool examples. They're planning to take that construction and demolition waste and turn it into recycled aggregates, which can then be used for new construction.
So something that would have ended up in a landfill is now, what, a building material? Pretty ingenious, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's amazing. And
Wow.
it doesn't stop there. They're also exploring how to use wood waste, from pruning and stuff, as fuel or
Mhm.
as raw material for making things like composite wood boards.
So really closing the loop, turning what we think of as trash into something useful. But what about the things that, just can't be recycled? Does that still end up in a landfill?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And we have to be realistic. Even with the best technology, not everything can be recycled, at least not yet.
Right.
So for the things that can't be recycled, they will have a controlled landfill on site.
Controlled landfill. Okay, so that sounds a little different. Is that a better option?
I think it's an honest approach. They're not saying we can eliminate landfills entirely, not yet anyway. But the key is that it's controlled, meaning, it's designed and managed in a way that minimizes the environmental impact.
Okay, that makes sense. They're not, just promoting this idea of 100% recycling, but acknowledging what's actually possible.
Right. And I think that transparency is important. Arunda Recicla it's a big step forward, and they're being upfront about the whole process.
This is making me think about all the waste I generate. I bet a lot of it would fit into one of those categories at Arunda Recicla.
It's a good reminder for all of us, really. We're all part of this, this cycle. And initiatives like this they can help us be more mindful of our own consumption and how much waste we create.
Yeah. So it's not just about Rhonda, it's about setting an example.
Exactly. And speaking of setting an example, there's another piece of Arunda Recicla that's pretty innovative. They're planning to have a vehicle decontamination center.
Vehicle decontamination center. Okay, now I'm really curious. What exactly is that?
So think about all the stuff in vehicles that's, well, hazardous and can't be used anymore, like oil, coolant, batteries. This center is designed to safely remove and process all those materials before the vehicles are dismantled and their parts are recycled or resold.
That's really smart. I mean, it keeps all those harmful fluids from contaminating the environment.
Right. It shows how committed they are to environmental responsibility. It's not just about recycling the metal, it's about the whole process.
It sounds like Arunda Recicla is going to be like a one-stop shop for waste management.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And, it's not just good for the environment, it's also going to create jobs and boost the local economy.
Yeah, let's talk about that. How will this project actually benefit the people who live in Rhonda?
Well, the article says that Arunda Recicla is projected to create 30 direct jobs and another 75 indirect jobs, and they're giving priority to local residents.
That's huge. Over 100 jobs in a community like Rhonda, that's going to make a real difference for families and businesses.
It shows how sustainability can actually drive economic development. It doesn't have to be a choice between the environment and the economy.
A win-win for Rhonda, environmental protection and economic growth, all in one.
And potentially a win for other communities as well. Rhonda could become a model for how to approach waste management.
Right. Before we move on, let's circle back to the environmental benefits. The article mentions some pretty impressive numbers.
Yeah, they're aiming for a recycling and recovery rate of over 95%, which is, well, remarkable. And they're really focused on preventing soil and water contamination.
So not just keeping waste out of landfills, but actively protecting the surrounding environment.
Exactly. And they're very clear about the fact that Arunda Recicla will be in full compliance with both Spanish national law and the Andalusian circular economy law.
So they're not just setting their own standards, they're meeting and exceeding legal requirements. They're really aligning with those bigger sustainability goals.
And that's important. This isn't just a local thing happening in Ronda. It's part of a much larger movement towards sustainability in Spain and really around the world.
It makes their story even more compelling. It's not an isolated case, it's part of a trend.
It is. And it makes you wonder, if a place known for its beauty and history can make this kind of commitment to sustainability, what's possible for other communities?
Yeah, it really does make you think, what we think of when we picture a typical tourist destination.
Right.
And it's usually not, cutting edge waste management. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We focus on those beautiful landscapes, historical sites, but we don't often stop to consider all the garbage that comes with all those visitors.
Right, exactly.
And it makes you wonder, could this project, Arunda Recicla, actually make Ronda even more appealing to tourists? Could it become a destination for eco-conscious travelers?
Oh, that's an intriguing thought. I mean, imagine a travel itinerary that includes a stop at like a state-of-the-art recycling center, showing off Ronda's dedication to sustainability.
It's like turning their waste management into a selling point, a way to show, hey, we're taking this global challenge seriously.
Right. And it could attract a whole new type of tourist, people who, really prioritize sustainable travel when they're choosing their destinations.
And what about the people who live there? I have to imagine this is giving them a sense of pride in their community.
Oh, I bet it is. I mean, it's easy to see how Arunda Recicla could become a symbol of, well, Rhonda's forward-thinking approach, how they're protecting their environment, their future.
It's like saying, look, we're not just a pretty place. We're a community that cares about our impact.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that message, it resonates with everyone, residents and visitors, and it really strengthens Ronda's identity as a place that's committed to sustainability.
So you mentioned earlier that Ronda's efforts are in line with those broader sustainability trends happening in Spain. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. The article specifically mentions Spain's national waste law and the Andalusian circular economy law. And these laws are, well, they're really frameworks to encourage more sustainable waste management practices all across the country.
So Ronda is basically taking those national and regional goals and putting them into action on a local level.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's not just happening in isolation. It's a demonstration of how communities can really contribute to those larger scale sustainability goals.
And it makes me think, other regions in Spain are probably watching Ronda's progress very closely, maybe even thinking about doing something similar themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Rhonda's success could have this ripple effect, inspiring other communities to try similar solutions, which would, really help advance those national sustainability goals.
And then you have to wonder, what about other communities, even those that don't have Ronda's, stunning scenery or history? What can they learn from this? What makes Ronda's approach so adaptable?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And while Rhonda's situation is, obviously unique, the principles they're embracing, those are universal.
Right.
Seeing waste as a resource, committing to a circular economy, and connecting their efforts to their local identity, those are things that can be, well, they can be adapted and applied in so many different places.
It's a reminder that sustainability doesn't always require, huge gestures or futuristic technology.
Right.
It's about those smart, practical choices, finding solutions that actually work for each community and really getting the community involved.
Yeah, it's about looking around and seeing what resources you have, identifying those challenges and getting creative with the solutions. It's realizing that even small communities can have a real impact.
And that's where the real inspiration comes in, I think. If Rhonda can pull this off with its, limited resources and its dependence on tourism, what's stopping other communities from stepping up?
It's easy to get caught up in those what ifs or to think
Yeah.
it's too hard.
Hmm.
But Rhonda is showing us that it is possible to make serious progress, even in places that might seem unlikely.
And they're doing it in a way that benefits, well, the economy, the environment, and the community all at the same time.
It shows us that environmental stewardship, economic vitality, and social well-being, they're all connected.
Right. They all go hand in hand.
Yeah, and they can all thrive together.
And it's a message that, goes way beyond the borders of Rhonda. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to mention something that Clive included in his bio at the end of the article. He's involved in a bunch of projects that promote sustainable and eco-friendly businesses, especially those focused on wildlife and walking holidays in Spain.
So he's really dedicated to showcasing the region's beauty, but in a way that's, responsible and sustainable.
It's a good reminder that we can explore the world and protect it at the same time.
Absolutely. Tourism, when it's done thoughtfully, can really be a force for conservation and positive change.
And for anyone listening who's, intrigued by Rhonda's story or just interested in Clive's work in general, we've included links to all of his projects in the episode notes.
Right.
So be sure to check those out. As we were talking about all this, it really got me thinking about the challenges that, well, our own communities are facing right here at home. I mean, we all generate waste, we all depend on resources, and we all have a responsibility to find solutions that work for both people and the planet.
That's a really important point. It's easy to see Rhonda's story as something that's, happening far away, but the lessons they're teaching us, those are universal. It's a reminder that we need to look at our own communities and ask ourselves, what can we learn from Rhonda? How can we use the principles of a circular economy to create solutions that really work for us, both now and in the future?
It's a challenge for sure, but it's also an incredible opportunity to build something unique and beneficial, something that, respects our heritage and builds on our strengths and leaves a positive impact for generations to come.
Yeah, just like Rhonda.
Just like Rhonda's kind of like a blueprint, right? It shows us that change is possible, even in places that might not seem like the obvious candidates.
Yeah, and what's so cool is they're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
They're using existing technology and making it work for them.
It's really about changing the way we think about things, isn't it? Seeing waste not as something to, throw away, but as a resource we can use. It's about recognizing the potential of the circular economy, even in places that haven't really thought about it before.
And that's what makes their story so inspiring, really. It's about human ingenuity, about community involvement.
Yeah, and it shows that even small communities can have a big impact.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay.
Think about your own community. What are the challenges you're facing? What kind of resources do you have? And how can you, draw inspiration from Rhonda and create a more sustainable future for yourselves?
It could be as simple as starting a conversation with your neighbors or talking to your local officials, just raising awareness about this idea of a circular economy.
Right. Right.
Or maybe it's supporting businesses that are already doing things in a sustainable way, or even advocating for policy changes, at the local level.
The important thing is we don't have to wait for someone else to fix these problems for us.
Right.
We can all be a part of the solution, even if it feels like a small contribution.
Ronda shows us that it's not about waiting for the perfect time or the perfect answer. It's about doing something, being bold, taking on the challenge, and finding creative ways to turn what looks like a problem into an opportunity.
Who knows? Maybe someday your community will be the one inspiring others with its own, unique approach to sustainability, just like Rondi is doing right now.
Now that would be something, wouldn't it?
It would. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into Ronda's recycling revolution. A huge thank you to Clive Muir for his amazing reporting, and to you, our listeners, for joining us. Be sure to check out the episode notes for links to learn more about Ronda, sustainability initiatives, and Clive's work. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.